In a shocking turn of events, the geopolitical landscape has been dramatically altered. North Korean soldiers have been reported in Russia, a development that has sent shockwaves through the international community. Here's what you need to know. This unprecedented move has raised numerous questions and concerns among global leaders and analysts alike. On October 24, 2024, Russian President Vladimir Putin failed to deny reports of North Korean military personnel arriving in Kursk Oblast. This non-denial has been interpreted by many as a tacit admission of the presence of these foreign troops on Russian soil. Ukrainian intelligence suggests around 12,000 North Korean troops are now supporting Russia's efforts. This significant number indicates a substantial commitment from North Korea, which has historically been an isolated nation with limited involvement in international conflicts. This move comes amid ongoing tensions and battles in Ukraine, where the conflict has been raging for several years. The addition of North Korean troops could potentially shift the balance of power in the region. Significant developments have been reported in Kharkiv, Luhansk, and Donetsk oblasts. These areas have been hotspots of intense fighting, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. Russia continues its offensive, pushing deeper into Ukrainian territory, while Ukraine mounts counterattacks and defensive operations. Ukrainian forces have shown remarkable resilience and determination, often managing to reclaim lost ground and inflict significant damage on Russian forces. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko downplayed the presence of North Korean troops, suggesting Russia's own forces are sufficient. Lukashenko's comments have been met with skepticism, as many believe that the involvement of North Korean troops indicates a need for additional manpower and support. He hinted that such involvement could escalate the conflict, a sentiment echoed by several international observers. The presence of foreign troops in a conflict zone often leads to increased tensions and the potential for wider regional instability. The possibility of escalation is a major concern for the international community, as it could lead to a broader conflict involving multiple nations. The Kremlin is also attempting to portray the recent BRICS summit in Kazan as evidence of international backing. Russian officials have highlighted the presence of leaders from Brazil, India, China, and South Africa as a sign of support for their actions. However, reports indicate that many BRICS nations do not fully support Russia's stance on the war. Diplomatic sources suggest that while these countries are willing to engage in dialogue with Russia, they are not in favor of its aggressive actions in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces are advancing in Kursk Oblast and other key areas. Their progress has been slow but steady, with strategic victories that have boosted morale and demonstrated their capability to challenge Russian advances. As the conflict intensifies, the international community watches closely, with many nations expressing concern over the potential for further escalation. The involvement of North Korean troops has added a new dimension to the conflict, making it even more unpredictable. Anticipating the next moves from both sides, military strategists and analysts are closely monitoring the situation. The addition of North Korean troops could lead to new tactics and strategies being employed on the battlefield. Stay tuned for more updates on this evolving story. As new information becomes available, we will continue to provide comprehensive coverage and analysis. The situation remains fluid, and the potential for significant developments is high. The international community must remain vigilant and prepared for any eventualities. The geopolitical implications of North Korean involvement in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict are profound. This development could lead to shifts in alliances and power dynamics in the region. Countries neighboring Russia and Ukraine are particularly concerned about the potential for spillover effects and increased instability. The United Nations has called for an emergency meeting to discuss the situation. Representatives from various countries are expected to voice their concerns and propose measures to de-escalate the conflict. The involvement of North Korean troops is likely to be a key topic of discussion. Around the world, anti-war demonstrations have erupted in response to the news. People are taking to the streets to demand an end to the conflict and to express their opposition to the involvement of foreign troops. These protests reflect a growing global desire for peace and stability. Humanitarian organizations are also ramping up their efforts to provide aid to those affected by the conflict. Refugee camps are being set up to accommodate the increasing number of displaced persons, and relief supplies are being distributed to those in need. The economic impact of the conflict is also becoming more apparent. Stock markets around the world have experienced fluctuations in response to the news, and there are concerns about the potential for long-term economic instability. Businesses and investors are closely monitoring the situation, as the outcome of the conflict could have far-reaching economic consequences. Diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict are ongoing. Peace talks are being held in various locations with representatives from Russia, Ukraine, and other interested parties. The goal is to find a peaceful resolution to the conflict and to prevent further escalation. History has shown that conflicts involving multiple nations can have devastating consequences. The lessons from past conflicts are being considered as world leaders work to navigate the current situation. The hope is that a peaceful resolution can be achieved before the conflict spirals out of control. Military experts are analyzing the involvement of North Korean troops and what it means for the conflict. Their insights are helping to shape the strategies and responses of the involved parties. The expertise of these analysts is crucial in understanding the potential outcomes of the conflict. In addition to traditional military tactics, there is also the potential for cyber warfare to play a role in the conflict. Both Russia and North Korea have significant cyber capabilities, and there are concerns that these could be used to disrupt communications, infrastructure, and other critical systems. International sanctions are being considered as a means to pressure Russia and North Korea to de-escalate the conflict. These economic measures could have a significant impact on the involved nations, potentially influencing their actions and decisions. Global leaders are in constant communication, discussing the best ways to address the situation. Diplomatic efforts are being made to bring all parties to the negotiating table and to find a peaceful resolution to the conflict. The humanitarian crisis resulting from the conflict is a major concern. Civilians are bearing the brunt of the violence, with many losing their homes, livelihoods, and loved ones. Efforts are being made to provide support and assistance to those affected by the conflict. Looking ahead, there are several potential outcomes to the conflict. The involvement of North Korean troops adds a new layer of complexity, and the situation remains highly unpredictable. Analysts are considering various scenarios and their implications for the region and the world. Stay tuned for more updates on this evolving story. As new information becomes available, we will continue to provide comprehensive coverage and analysis. The situation remains fluid, and the potential for significant developments is high. The international community must remain vigilant and prepared for any eventualities. In conclusion, the involvement of North Korean troops in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict marks a significant escalation. The international community must closely monitor the situation and be prepared for a range of possible outcomes. The geopolitical, economic, and humanitarian implications are vast, and the need for a peaceful resolution is more urgent than ever.